I'm Clint, and welcome to Swatches Livestream number 29. We'll be doing portfolio reviews. Now, be reminded these are blind portfolio reviews. I have not seen this artwork and do not know what we'll be covering in this episode. We'll also be taking your questions live from the chat, talking about some upcoming stuff with swatches, and kicking off a new art challenge, so stick around for that. If you're watching this in recording, then take a look for the timestamps below if you want to jump to a particular part of the episode. If you're joining live, obviously you can't do that. I will try to get the timestamps down there a little after it gets posted, and it will take YouTube a little bit in order to process the video and get it posted. And then I'll get out there and put those in. Otherwise, we'll hang around for a minute, let people join into the stream before we start diving into the portfolios and the reviews. Now, if you're new to the channel, then welcome. I am Clint Cearley. I am a professional illustrator and art educator. And if you want to get your portfolios entered to be possibly reviewed, they are reviewed on a random basis on these live streams, then all you need to do is leave a comment in one of my YouTube channels, on one of my YouTube videos, with a link to your online gallery, and I will add that to the list. Also, we have a really great Facebook group for the Swatches viewers, and you're welcome to come out there and join us. There's almost 1,000 at the time of this live stream, and it's a supportive community. You're welcome to put up images, give people feedback, get feedback, and it's also the best place to get information about when the next live streams will be and upcoming events, etc. for the Swatches community. So that is the rundown, and how's it been going, guys? Bob Majid, Repraved, Michael, how's it going, man? Doing good? The audio is a bit low. I don't know why the audio is low. I have everything maxed out. My mic is right here. It's turned all the way up. OBS is turned all the way up. My input on my computer is turned all the way up. Yeah. Do you guys still plan on doing traditional art challenges? Yes, I do. In fact, we're going to have a traditional challenge coming up where you have to draw something every day, but that won't be this time. And I'm waiting until I can clear some things out of my schedule so I can join in on that one, because I want to do some a live oil painting every day, even if it's just a small one. But yeah, that's coming up, so stay tuned. Igor, how's it going? Darius Salardi. Hey everybody, yeah, how's it going, guys? So I guess the proper way, I should have started off by saying aloha. I'm in Hawaii now, and this time, Hurricane Lane is about, what, 250 miles away. It's throwing some rain over my way, but it's not too bad. I thought maybe I would have to cancel the stream due to the storm, but it really, it's not much right now. I don't know why everything's quiet. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, my mic is topped out. Let me turn this off in the background, and I'll turn my mic up a little bit more. Otherwise, it's going to get the AC sound. Okay, so how was that? Is that better? Yeah, that's really everything that I can do to raise the volume. That's pretty much it. Okay. Apocra. Welcome. Glad you joined the stream for the first time. How many people we got? 22 right now. Awesome. Did you stop by and see Hawaii's erupted volcano? No, that's over on the other island. I'm on the northern island. Kauai. South Island has the big volcano. But I might go down there next month just to look around. Maybe have a weekend away and go see another island. Also, a friend is visiting the island down there, so I might go down there and see him while he's around. let's minimize this and get, it looks like OBS, everything looks pretty good. So I'll move that out of the way. Just setting some my panels up here so they are where I need them. If you guys have questions, I moved or vacation. I moved for foreseeable future. I'll hang around as long as I'm keen to, and then maybe move back later if I want to. No. Darius asks, is there going to be a summary of last challenge, the one with the mask? Oh yeah, we need to do that. Yeah, I didn't give people enough time in order to make sure they got everything in, and didn't give a final conclusion to that because I ended up moving somewhere I didn't have internet connection good enough. So yeah, we'll try to do a summary of that, put that together somehow. I'll have to think about it. I don't have that planned right now. Are you a fan of pineapple on pizza? No, I am not. I don't really like to mix sweet and savory. Pizza is a savory food, and I prefer to keep it that way. Meats, cheeses, you can change up which ones, you can change up the amounts, but that's basically what it's about. That, and of course the sauce. So pineapple is great in fruit salad or even by itself. No, I don't want pineapple on a pizza. But I have had pineapple on pizza. I think it tastes okay, but I don't think it improves the pizza by putting it on there. I think the regular pizza is better how it is. What do you think about the upcoming Spyro remake? I have almost no thoughts on the matter. I have never played Spyro. I'm familiar with who he is, and I remember the original Spyro coming out, but it seems like they're always remaking old games, so it doesn't really surprise me. If people are interested and they do a good job, then, great. Pineapple on pizza is heresy. I wouldn't go that far. It's not my taste. I think somebody was just trying to be clever and doesn't get you that much. So let's jump over to doing screen and webcam. There we go. And then we can pull this out. Don't really need that up there. There we go. So happy to have streams again. Hey, I'm happy that we can do streams again. I will let you know though, the internet here is a little dodgy. My stream strength jumps between 200 KB to 2000 KB just all the time. So this will probably have a little glitching in it, but I've done everything that I can. It really is the internet service. It's not quite as stable as I would like. Yeah. On a Vibrance channel, you should do something related to Hawaii's outdoors somehow. Yeah, we'll get back into Vibrance as well. I've been focusing on just trying to jumpstart basically the Swatches side of things over the last about the last month, last couple of weeks anyway, and get a lot of the videos start coming back out, get some of the series start coming back out, and because not doing things for quite a while, but Al Gore is going to fix this. I won't hold my breath, but if he can, more power to him. It depends on the type of pizza. Napolitan is perfect. Yeah, it depends. I mean, if you can build the pizza around that, then it's basically going to be a fruity, fresh sort of taste that can work. I just don't see how pepperoni and pineapple, the tastes just don't go together. Yeah, bring the challenges back. Okay, so yeah, we will be doing a new challenge, and I guess we could kick it off with that. I don't have it written up, so let me just talk you through it right now, and then what I will do is I will write up a proper description and I will post that in the Facebook group so that you can have clear guidelines. And also, if you're watching this not live, then you can go out to the Facebook group and see that. This will be a 2-week challenge. Everybody pretty much said that they enjoyed having 2 weeks to do it. Gives you a little more playtime in your schedule. So let's go back over here. And the challenge, what I want to do is something I have not done before. And I'd like to do some sketches along with it. And that is a kind of level design. This sort of thing. Like you're doing a image. I apologize to the artists here whose names I did not save in the file names. Some of them I have the name. A lot of these I don't. So I'm not trying to steal this. These were my inspirations. So art challenge, yeah. Doing something like this, essentially as a location piece that you might have in a game. We're focusing on one area. We're not doing an entire environment scene. We're also having the view, the isometric view, where you're sort of looking down on it at an angle. And we're looking for several things in this, which would be a path that a character could take through the scene. Don't just give me a room with just a block of walls. I want to see where they can enter and they can exit from the scene. Give me a logical path that the character could take through the scene to explore it. You don't need to put a figure in there unless it's really needed in order to understand maybe the scale of that sort of thing. Or if there's somebody in there that maybe the player is supposed to go talk to, if that's what's going on. But it's mainly about the environment. Let's look at some other ones. This one's big. This one's really well done. This sort of thing, he's doing different rooms with this. And you can see this makes sense. Try to think about it as if you were a player playing a game and you could explore this environment. You could walk across these beams. You could enter from this side, go to that side. That looks like maybe a point of interest. And that's something else we want to have in the scene. What is the point of interest? Here it is the big gong. We have several fire things here. The point of interest there is the door, which is also the exit. Up here it's this big statue. So they change. The point of interest for this one is obviously the house. And the point of interest should also serve as something that they could interact with. So in this case, it's just exploring the house. They could enter the house. Over here, maybe they need to hit the gong, and that way they could activate it. Looking on. This is one for the... Man, I want to think it was Tomb Raider, one of the newer Tomb Raiders. Nice big room here. And you can see the nice big feature here. It's not the one that they so much interact with. Maybe they climb on it or whatever. But let's also try to add multiple levels to the scene instead of just keeping everything flat. That is a really good way in order to make the scene more interactive from a player standpoint. So what I mean by multiple levels is you have the ground floor, and then you have steps up to this little ledge, and then you have steps up to this one, and then we have little ledges all around the sides like this. And those all are nice multi-level pieces to the image. Of course, this being almost a big playground in itself, being able to climb up that and be able to get onto the higher levels through that big tree. Here's another one for Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Damjan, yeah, welcome. How's it going? Can you give us an example of different fields that work for illustration? Okay, we'll come back to some of those questions in a second. This is a good one. These sort of serve as multiple levels. I imagine you have to climb up these, maybe jump across them. This, he's showing you that. We don't necessarily need multiple views of things. I also would like to see this in color. These are quicker studies, and I say quicker, he put a lot of time into these, but let's see colored and lit versions of these. A particularly nice one I like is this one. I will probably be doing something along this line. So this shows just a simple progression that a character could take through here. The lighting is fairly simple in that most of it is indirectly lit, but it has a light right there around where the character is. In this case, you sort of do need a character in the scene to indicate the size, because I don't know if this is supposed to be a mountain or just a little hillside. Otherwise, you might want to put in something like a wagon cart or a sign, something that we would assume the size of to compare the rest of the stuff to if you don't put in a character. Now, on something like this, it doesn't have anything very interactive, so maybe you put in like a stone table that has some inscriptions in it. Maybe there's a little tent or vendor shop there. Whatever it is, add a little bit extra to this. Also, this is a really nice image just by execution-wise. It was some fan art he did of the newest Zelda game, which is absolutely beautiful. And this is also a good style. This doesn't have to be completely realistic. I think this would be a lovely style to do it in. So nice, beautiful colors, not overly detailed, but the feeling of lighting is excellent, and this is a good feeling of exploration. Essentially, if you turn this into isometric view, that would serve really well as an example of something to do. You have some older ruins over here from, I think it was one of those attack droid things. Then you have somewhere to go explore. You have a non-flat environment with the land kind of going down a little bit, the water, and of course the character, which could be taken out if you wanted to. But that's what I'm looking for, a scene right along this line, but it could be in the city. It could be a set of ruins. It could be in the middle of a desert with giant dragon bones wrapping around. It could be on a little island. Maybe it's inside of a giant tower. And this is a platform reaching across from side to side inside of this tower. You can put it basically wherever you want it to be, but that's what we're looking for. And I want to do some sketching maybe next week over on the Twitch stream and conceptualize some of these myself. I think it would be a lot of fun. All right, so let's jump back over here. I'll take a look at the chat, see what I've missed here. Can I give you examples on different fields of work for an illustrator beyond common ones like magazines and books? Yeah. Let me pull up. Nope, I didn't write it down right there. Hang on. I actually wrote down something along that lines, and it would just save me the effort if I... Trying to remember where I put it. I write down so much stuff so I don't forget, but I don't always remember what folder I put it in. Is it on the swatches? Oh, there it is. Okay. So a couple of them that I think of is you can do commissions. Commissions could be for magazines, books, book covers, book illustrations, game companies. That's a lot of the big ones. You could also illustrate for, even websites. What else could you do? You could make money by doing physical galleries if you do traditional work and sell them that way if you have galleries around you that you want to sell at, or if you want to ship them to a gallery. You could do conventions. Maybe you'd like doing sci-fi artwork with mechs and all kinds of cool sci-fi stuff. Maybe going to a sci-fi convention and selling prints there and maybe original pieces there. You can do, if you interested in the education field, you can kind of take the direction like I do. You could create educational videos, ebooks, or teach classes. Maybe you're interested in applying your education to teaching kids how to draw. That's an option. Licensing is also a good thing. Maria Brophy, I've mentioned her before. She knows a lot about licensing for artists. You could check out some of her resources. And that way, like if you do a really cool, maybe graphical image, and it would be good on skateboards. I mean, the skateboard company will not buy the image, but they will license the right to use that. So you could create some good stylized artwork and try to find places that you can that might be interested in licensing them, and reach out to them about that. You could, of course, try your own YouTube channel. That's not a big money maker, but option-wise, maybe you want to get your own artwork, build a fan base around it, and then create your own Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign. And that can be a way to pre-sell a lot of images. Maybe you're selling art prints. Maybe you're selling an art book. You're doing a compilation of images and you want to be able to produce a book out of it. But as far as items, you can do prints, posters. You could sell those online. T-shirts is a big one. Lots of sites that you could sell those on. I sell images on playmats that game players use and sell those online. That's an option. Let's see what else you could do. Some people make their own playing card decks. So if you do your, each version of Jack, Queen, King, Ace, Joker, that sort of direction, you could create your own deck like that. So there's a lot of options out there. So don't just get stuck on one. In fact, a lot of artists nowadays find that spreading across multiple is best, because there's cycles to stuff. Sometimes you'll get really great commissions for a while, and then they'll kind of die down. And if you spread your income over multiple sources, you're less likely to just bottom out when any one thing might be slacking off some. Jacob says, it's 2 a.m. in Poland. I'm so happy that we're back. Hey, Jacob, well, I'm glad you can join us. Do remember that they are recorded, so you don't necessarily need to stay up at 2 a.m. But we'll maybe try changing up the time, depending on the week, so different people can catch it at better times. Yeah. As an artist who lives far away from the main art industry countries, is social media the only way I can get a job? Social media is a big way that you can get a job. Okay, I've got to turn the AC back on. I'm sorry if it gives a background noise, but it gets hot in here real quick. There we go. Can you do the level as a raiding party or an epic boss battle? I mean, you could do like maybe the area that the boss would be in, where you would have the big boss battle. But this is not about characters. Characters are incidental to this challenge. So if you need one in there as scale reference, that's about the only reason. We are really designing the environment that the player would interact with. Juan says, hi Clint, greetings from Chile. Hey, awesome. Thanks for joining me from Chile. Okay, we're going back down to Ian. He said, artists, I live far away from the main art industry countries. Social media the only way I can get a job. Well, I don't think that it matters that much where you live. If you're working more freelance, obviously if you're working in-house at a studio, it matters a lot because you have to live near enough that you can travel to the studio. But if you're working freelance like me, it doesn't matter. I mean, I can move to Chile and my clients won't care. In fact, they probably won't know unless I tell them. You know, I moved from the mainland out to the islands, and it hasn't affected a single thing. So, as far as getting work, I think everyone pretty much gets work the same way. Social media, I mean, you can have a Facebook page, you can be posting out there, you can have Instagram, you can be doing that. But of course, you can be sending your work to companies. Um, you can be trying to get in challenges. I know like ArtStation has some big challenges. I think Noman has some big challenges. You can Google around. There's always some sort of challenges going on, and that is a good way to get some extra attention. So if you're doing good work and you're placing up in the top, tier of some of these challenges, companies will likely be paying more attention to those because it will keep them from having to look through all the little, individual portfolios from an entire site, and they kind of let the top artists just rise to the top, and they can just look at those themselves. Now, Hush Falls, yeah, you actually did catch me live. We haven't been streaming for all that long, like 20 minutes. Sarah says, personal question. You have a very peculiar accent. I have got that many, many times. Where are you from? I grew up in Texas. And no, I do not sound like a Texan. I want to think that it is a combination of liking European accents more. So I have a slight bit of that. And then two, when I was younger, there were certain sounds that I could not make very well. And so I had to change my speech in order to deal with that, just speech problems. And I think that ended up kind of giving me an accent. But, yeah. Okay, so let's take a look at some portfolios. I think it's about time, right? Again, these are blind. I don't know what we're going to be looking at, but we will use a randomizer to figure out who we'll be looking at. If we get somebody that we've already looked at before, you don't get to. So, there we go. All right. I'm using a random number generator with Google. And it gives me that number, so I will come out here to my list. And we'll take a look at who is at that number. And see if we've done them before. I try to remember to mark them off the list if we have done them, but I don't always remember. And then some of these older ones, they close their portfolio by the time we get to them. Nope, that one's active. So let's take a look. And I need to scroll back to my page here. There we go. Get the chat back up where I can see it. Could I make a list of portfolios already checked? I could, but honestly, I'd have to go back and just rewatch all the live streams to see who they were, and to see if I missed somebody. So probably I'm not going to do that. Screen and webcam. Okay. Why is this? Okay, hang on. OBS is doing something weird to me here. Why is it not showing my whole area? Okay, well, alright, I'm not sure why it was doing that, but there we go. And it's showing how much my... Alright, so somehow it changed my aspect ratio, and I'm trying to figure out what's going to actually fit on the screen now. Alright, so it's grabbing the center section, it's grabbing the right side. Weird. Nope, that's not right. Okay, well, previously it always grabbed the left side, so I guess I'll have this over here. Okay. Figure that out later. But that should be visible on screen. Yeah. Okay. All the way from about here over. Okay, cool beans. There we go. Alright, so we're looking at the gallery of Superegomark. I think he submitted his portfolio a long time ago. He's way back on the list. Yeah, here we go. How do I end my portfolio? How do you end your... Oh, how do you send your portfolio? Just leave a link on one of my YouTube videos. I look at all the comments and have it to go to your gallery, and I will just go out there and copy it and add it to the list. Yep. So, Superegomark. Take a look. See what we can learn about them to begin with. Slowly. Gallery's out on DeviantArt. They're male. They live in United Kingdom. This Mark Paxton is his name. This is his work here. Okay. I was just curious, and we'll go back to the gallery. And he has a breakdown of fan art, horror, science fiction, fantasy, black and white, pencils, portraits, old stuff. Okay. So let's start with some of the newer things. Blade Runner. Original Blade Runner. That's Chris, isn't it? Character? Digital work. A lot of texture going on. Okay, I'm not sure if he penciled this and scanned it or it's all digital. So what I want to do is go through here and look at several of these and see what's consistent throughout the images. And when you're doing a portfolio review, that's a really good way to start. Instead of looking at the individual strengths and weaknesses of an image, like I could say, oh, well, this one could be adjusted here or there. But let's start by looking at the overall issues with the portfolio. Is he doing this consistently wrong throughout the artwork? And if we can identify that, then that will spread to more things. Okay. Does a lot of people, a lot of characters, a lot of fan art. Okay. Basically the same style, same technique. Looks like he's being used on all of these. Right. That Batman's really not bad. I kind of like some of the technique going here on the cape. That looks odd, the way that arm is coming, like, I know it's supposed to be folded, but the way that it's visually straight to us when I know it's supposed to be folded, and then the way it interacts with the chest there looks a little odd. So, yeah, okay. Okay, so first I'm going to say that the images they look unfinished. And I know that you're going for I'm talking as if he is watching this. They look unfinished. Sorry, my phone. But not in a particularly professional way. Like, there are some artists that... Okay, I'm just turning this off, so it is not going to keep buzzing me. Hang on. So I've got a machine that keeps calling me all day long. There we go. Okay, so there were some art styles that can look good, that have sort of a rough. Let's see. Let's pull this up. Graphics. Let's go to goodies, styles. I'm not sure that I have one of these saved, but let's take a look. I'm trying to think of a style that is not unlike what he's doing, that is a bit rougher, bit textural, but also is cleaner. This just looks really muddy, and I think you could still keep this look, but do it better. So that's what I want to look at over here. I keep a folder called styles, and it's just rendering styles that a lot of these I don't do or haven't played with. There's probably something in here that's close. No. Not really. It's like, this is totally different direction, painting-wise, but this is very rough. It has a lot of texture, and it has a lot of visual noise and roughness to it, but it's simultaneously okay with it. That's the point. And he works it into it, and there is a really nice duality between the finished, clean areas and the unfinished, painterly areas. So it's not just a roughness applied evenly to everything. There's actually, he uses it as a tool in order to contrast clean against messy. And you don't want just messy everywhere, because then it just looks messy. Alright, who else? Not so much. Now, like, some of the Fables art has a bit more visual texture to it, like it has paint strokes or the canvas texture or watercolor paper texture behind it, and that might be the direction that he could think about going, is trying to use a bit of that, but then cleaning up the rendering style. Kind of surprised I don't have something else. Take a look at character designs, maybe. How big is the list? A little over 100. I could spend a while trying to go in there and find stuff, but no, I don't know one offhand, so. I think that you need to find a style that is one direction or the other. Right now, it feels like you're getting pretty much like pencil lines and pencil shading, and then you're just painting some colors over it. The problem that arises from that is black and white are inherently dull and cold. So when you just add a black and white as the value scheme, and you just put some colors over it or under it, then you get these dull colors. And that's one of the things that you see. This isn't as red as it could be. That's not as bright as it could be. The red on that isn't as bright as it could be. Another thing is the lines, where they're using a lot of lines to indicate the sides of the nose, lines around, even the top part of the lip, lines around the eyes, lines on, the collarbone. But he's not committing to a line-based artwork. It's like he's still trying to paint it. And now this is a little better. Like, it's committing to definitely lines, colors supporting it. Where some of these other ones, it's like the lines aren't predominant, and it's sort of a split between lines and painting, and they just sort of cancel each other out. Over here is if you're going to use lines, you have to learn where to use them and where not to use them. You don't want to use lines on the outside of the nose like that. Now, if the nose is turned, you can use a line to indicate the top of the nose. But on a straight on, you don't want two lines going down the outside of the nose and on the outside of the nostril and one on the alveolar fold. Those are all unflattering lines, unflattering shapes to emphasize on a face, especially a female. So, yeah. You guys are saying that pose is throwback to Batman the Dark Knight. It is messy. Yeah, I think that's the problem. And messy can be good, but messy can be bad too. This is kind of a bad messy. I mean, how to improve your... You're saying who? Frank Miller-ish? Yeah, Frank Miller does it. He does that kind of style, a mix of them. You can look at some of the Judge Dredd covers. Who? Let's Google here. Let's look at the images. Now, I met Greg Staples a while back, and he has some nice textural sort of parts to some of his images. Like this. Like this is a good combination. The lines are very predominant. It still has that sort of classic comic line thing going on with it, but it's also very much a standalone image. And that is a piece of artwork and not just a standard illustration. Alright, so he's got a lot of this. And you can see it has that traditional look to it because I think most, if not all of his work is traditional. So you can look at some of those guys, some older stuff here. This is also good illustration to look at. It's an older one, I think. But you can see that this still is clean, and it keeps the lines, and it keeps the texture going on as well. So I would suggest him to go look at maybe some of Greg Staples' art. Surely there's an article or webpage somewhere that sort of looks at his creation process. So maybe you can take some ideas from that and apply them to your own artwork. Yeah, so there's options there. Okay. I think he's going for ugly, feeling a purpose, something like disturbing. Yeah, there's... I guess one of the things like what Staples does that he's not really doing is he's still working... Like Staples works in the bigger blocks, right? There's definitively a value range and a color range for each area, and it keeps it overall visually cleaner. Over here, there's not so much. Like, the background and the characters all sort of sit within the same color range and the value range, with the exception of just like, this is kind of darker than the rest of it. But this really needs to be different from that character so it stands out. The skin still needs to be different from whatever this suit is so it stands out. So we're looking at some bigger differences between the visual areas of it, each section. And like the texture is a visual spice that is easy to go overboard with, and I feel like it's being overdone here. Like the papery texture, it's just a bit too much. And what you want is something to contrast that against. Like if you're going to have that textury background, then let the skin be smooth. Kind of like what we saw in that other painting where the lady's face is nice and realistic, right? Okay, well, I've moved folders since then. But the face could be more realistic and soft, and then it contrasts against the texture of the paper. All right, so that's some ideas there. In order to implement this, it would take a lot of work. So I'm not going to do a paint over of these. It would basically just be me repainting this face, softening all the edges. Yeah. So maybe we'll take a look at a different one, another portfolio. Let me back to OBS. Okay, let's see what we have. Let's close that. Different number. Okay, where's my list? There we go. I'll mark that as finished. And we'll go down to the next one. I'll check to see if that is a live gallery or not. Okay, no, it's not a gallery. It's well, it is a gallery, I guess. It's a Google Drive, so he's got some images hosted here on his Google Drive. All right, so that'll work. So let's go back to the screen, minimize that. Our portfolio reviews for patrons only, not on the live streams, not on these streams. The difference is, if you want your patrons at the $40 tier currently get a feedback video, personalized feedback video for an image that they submit. And that's me giving you a review, paintover, ideas, suggestions, and that's sent back to you. And you're guaranteed that every month. These are at random. So that's sort of the trade-off. You don't pay for them, but you have basically a 1 in 100 chance that yours is going to get chosen. That goes to Joseph, he was asking. Okay, so this is for this person whose name is not listed on this page, and I did not save what their name was on the list. I just saved the link. So apologies to whoever this is that I don't know your name. I assume I can click on these and okay. Turbulence, a little character. Alright, we're using basic shapes, throwing in some textures. Okay. Jamie, hello, how's it going? I've got, okay, different style. We've got a couple of animals, more cartoon style. Throwing a little lighting in there. Okay. It's more character, cartoon animals. I'm not sure what's going on here. Like, look like some sort of Zen garden in Asia, and he's like putting socks on her. And he has no feet. That's interesting. We have a very lengthy Ninja Turtle. I assume that's April O'Neil because she's wearing yellow. Okay. And we've got a bat thing choking. Okay, I feel like you're not finished on these images because, like, is that supposed to be coming out of her mouth? Because that doesn't go anywhere. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Is this a scarf? I'm not reading that as a scarf. It looks like a tongue, to be honest. And nothing else indicates that, like, they don't wear clothes, so I'm not sure that that's supposed to be a scarf. Okay, I'm just trying to get a quick view here. A little fawn character. Okay. Alright, so that's all of them. Let's go back to the beginning. Okay, first up I want to say they look unfinished. So if you want to improve the quality of your gallery, I mean, that's one of the first things that you would want to do, is just finish them. This looks like just a quick block in, like, oh, I'm just indicating some twigs down here. So yeah, let's go back there and do that. Also, the styles are really kind of clashing, that you have this very graphical style dress, which is almost a 2D, just paper cutout of a dress with a simple pattern on it, no shading, no folds, anything like that. And then you get off over here and you're trying to indicate a lot of visual information and realism by adding this texture into the tree. And there's a big disparity between that. And the face basically is a third style that doesn't work with this one and doesn't work with that one. And certainly doesn't work when you put all three together. So I'm going to say stick with one. You can do two of them, but threes is kind of a bit much. I would suggest cut out the textures and just paint it. Treat things like either the paper cutout style or the super textured style along with your normal painting. The normal painting can combine with a lot of other styles pretty well. It's sort of in the middle. But don't grab from both spectrums as well. Unless there's a real reason why you need this text up here, I'm going to say get rid of it. Just visually, it's not doing much. Also, the color isn't helping. If you want to colorize the whole scene, then go for it. But, okay, so several options like color-wise. If you want to color the whole scene, color it. And just do a full painting colored. If you want to do a black and white, then just make it black and white. The other option is to do a discordant color scheme where it's all black and white, but there's one standout color. And this isn't colored enough to really be very discordant. So, like, if you want that, then make it bright purple or blue or gold or whatever color you want, but make it graphically stand out because it's very different from the black and white. Yeah, I think you just need to go back and finish it. Like, the hands aren't finished. I don't know what's going on with these things. So just think through it. Keep conceptualizing it. Here, again, another one that feels like it's unfinished because I don't know what's going on with this bush down here. I mean, I would say I don't think you even need it. Like, this is the focal point, and this bush, even if you finish the bush, it's not adding anything to the scene. I would just, crop it right across there, and you're good composition-wise. I mean, this is a little odd. The composition here is odd. I would like to see some sort of solution to this because you've got this big diagonal running right up here to this guy. It sort of puts more attention on this guy than you really want because I feel like she's the focal point, but compositionally you're running everything up to here. Okay, you know what? Let's pull this over to... Can I download this? Save file, yes. Okay. Hang on. I just want to talk about some things with composition on that one. It's not a bad point to bring up. Give me OBS. And I'll switch that and grab that and pull it over to Photoshop. Okay, downloads. Yeah, there we go. Open with Photoshop. Boom. Okay. I don't need that. Pull Photoshop up to about there. That should work. Okay, so let's minimize that. Alright, comments. Yeah, just post a link to your gallery in the YouTube comments if you want your portfolio submitted. Yes, I did talk about the challenge, but I'll recap it at the end of the live stream as well in case you missed it. And I will be doing a full write-up of it and posting it on the the Facebook group, so you have a clear definition out there as well. So here, let's make a couple layers over that, and I'm going to fill that one with white and just set opacity down a little bit. And that way we can see my lines over it a little better. Set that to multiply. Okay, right now compositionally we've got a lot of wasted space. This is not informing us anything. It's not adding to the narrative of the scene, and it is not bringing our focus back up to the focal point. This is the focal point right here. And we want everything in the scene to be directing us back to that and re-emphasizing that. And this doesn't do it. The only reason this would be acceptable is if this was serving as a book cover, or CD cover, some sort of venue like that, where you're literally leaving room for a title. So there you go, and that would be okay because you basically want a nondescript background behind the text. Now I don't know that that's true, so let's just base it on it being an image, and it doesn't really, assume that it's a book. Now, if we crop that there, we're going to get rid of all of this. We're going to take out this bush up here as well. We don't really need the bush up there, so we just have the bottom of the bike like this. You got that shadow there. Okay, cool. Now, there is the compositional angle doing that, and then we have these lines, the legs essentially working as a line pointing up, this line coming back here. All of this is putting the focal point to there, and that's not necessarily what we want. Now, he's a secondary focal point because that's another character with another face, which gives it visual priority, but we want it to end back up here, don't we? So what can we do about it? The other point that we have is space. In the same way that kind of space down here that's wasted, this is a lot of wasted space too. That's not adding anything to the image. So can we get this to do something for us? Okay. If, turn that off, turn this off. If we add that down there, and I'm going to just roughly lay that in. Let's say we crop all that out. We have the cast shadow down here. All right, so a little bit like that. And that sort of corrects at least that issue. Then, well, we've got this shadow falling down up here, and that's fine. It doesn't make sense that this is shadowed as well. These awnings hang down, like if you saw this from the side, that awning hangs out and those little flaps go down like that. So the light would be coming here and hitting that. And then it would be shadowed underneath, sure, but that's actually catching light. And that's like a green. So if you did do that and had those in there, these would be catching the light up there. Yep. Then that's a lovely shadow that may also be falling over him. And this would help keep him more out of the picture. And I think changing the light would be helpful here. So if he was actually fully in shadow, it would set him as a secondary interest. I'm getting some lag because my computer's trying to process all the video. So we changed the angle so it's coming across a little bit more than what he had from that angle. Let me say the side of the building is a little darker back there. And then that's kind of going off. Oh, it can be coming this way. Yeah. Kind of coming like this. She could also be in a bit more of a shadow. Say that's a darker sort of red tone. And don't forget that using, you know, I'm going to make a new layer and show you this. Okay, let's start with just a gray, right? Let's just set this to multiply, and maybe we'll outline it. And I'm grabbing the area that will be in shadow. Quick selection. Okay, so we basically just selected her there, and I'm going to fill that with some gray. That's a little darker than I need. Fill that with some gray. And that's set to multiply, and that can work as a shadow, but it's very dull. When you, like I said, black is a very dull color, and because it has, of course, no hue. When you pull it up, this is hue. This is chroma. It has no chroma. It's not adding, the chroma is the actual color of color. This is the value, light to dark, and this is the saturation from left to right, and the chroma is going across there as well. So it has no chroma, which means that it's dulling all of the colors. Now we could play with that by going to Effects, Color Overlay. Well, there's a couple of different ways to do it. I'll just do Color Overlay and multiply. And I could come in here and change the color of, you know what, let's change that first. Let's brighten it. There we go. And then do Color Overlay. So I'm not fighting the value of the gray to begin with. I just want a slight gray from. So there, you can decide the color of the light. Now, if the light was warm, it's a really warm light, then you're probably going to have a cooler shadow. Something like that might be appropriate. Warm light, cool shadow is usually the dynamic that you see. Whereas if you want a cooler light on her, you could have a warmer shadow. Right? Get into all these nice warm tones. And that could be good. Yeah, I sort of like her because it goes along with the warmth of the character, right? And using a color overlay like this makes it very simple to just go through here and play with the tone that you like. And that sort of nice warm peachy one goes along well with it. We can do that. Maybe I make a new layer and set that to overlay. Let me grab that. And then that mid-tone, I want a mid-tone to run along there. The lights usually get extra brilliant right along the edge between the shadow and the light. So you could do that. You can also do another, say, linear dodge. I'm going to set that one down. I'm not going through all of this image. I just want to highlight a couple of ways you could go about doing this. If you just wanted to play up the light a little bit and say, okay, maybe this is a little warmer. It's kind of drifting down here. Warm-wise, we're getting some bounce light off of ground down here. Now that light is going to be bouncing up on her, and have a linear dodge layer set at 20. And I want to grab the same shape as her. There we go. Come back up here. Fuzzy brush, way too big. Okay. And then I can do 20 maybe is not enough. Let's set it up a bit more. So the areas facing downwards to the ground may be getting some bounce light coming up on them. Could put that in there. stuff facing upwards would not be receiving that light. So you kind of think about the 3D form going on there, like it would be lit underneath there. Let's push it up a little bit more so it's more visual. You have that reflection here, but not the top of the ear, not the top of the head. You'd have it down here, right? Where it's facing downwards, but not where it's facing upwards. A little bit right there. On the underside of that. So you can go through here and build up some of those forms fairly quickly, and all of a sudden it has a lot more. I'm gonna say realism is the goal. I don't think you need to go realistic with it, but if you pushed it as far as that, and obviously clean up all the edges and the paint strokes, that you would be adding a lot more to this scene. It's almost like a Pixar sort of lighting going on, or a Pixar sort of realism going on there, and that would be really nice. And it also helps the dynamic of what's going on with the composition. Something else that we could do here is using this shadow to help direct attention to the head. And we've got that going on. Blocking him out helps bring attention to her. But even if we had, like, if the light was not even, helps if I deselect that. If the light came across and angled to her face, more like that, one, it would compositionally direct your eye to the head more, with it coming down. It would also give some darker tone back here, some of that nice warm oranges to show it, right? Use some of that bluish tone. And then that can come down there. There we go. And then that helps the composition. So now we have that sort of thing going on with the composition. I don't even know that you really need this guy. He's got a weird expression, but maybe he's needed in the scene for some reason. This whole thing would need to be shaded, of course. This whole thing needs to be punched down a bit because it is basically all in shadow. And it could have the same bounce up light, right? Especially the chromey bits. It's going to have reflections on a lot of this, of the lights. It's not like redrawing the scene. Back here, this is too distracting. I know that you're going for like light on the window thing, but it's literally the brightest, hottest thing in the scene, and it's not the focal point. So I would suggest getting rid of that. You can have half of that. Also, the shape is like super definitive. So let's just have it more of a gradient that sort of goes across the window. And we can understand that to be a glare without having to resort to just the brightest possible colors. And that would be a little subtler and give us a good dark background for that. Oops. Tail to be there. Yeah. There. These dark areas would be a good place to not go completely dark. You already established these beautiful blue tones here. So if you came up there and did a, let's say, overlay with a light blue. I'm just going to grab it real quick. Photoshop with sound effects. Maybe that's something that we're missing. We need sound effects when we do different kinds of strokes. Or use different tools. That would actually be kind of interesting. And you could get your own sounds from a sound file and attach them to different tools. Yeah, somebody ought to work on that. Let's try soft light. What about hard light? Nope, too much. Soft light. So I did a soft light layer and pushing that up. Okay, there we go. And what I want to do is bring up more color into the scene. And I don't want it to just all be lost into the darkness. Now, I'm erasing it along the wood because the wood is not reflecting. I'm paying attention to the glass, right? The glass is what is going to be reflecting some of the color back. Take that one up just a little bit. And then I'm going to erase out a bit of the edge there. There we go. Maybe just a bit on the top so it gets dark. And here we could have a good juxtaposition between the warm and cool colors. And we didn't just lose it to black. And black is so dull. Comment. So the tip of the ear meeting the edge of the jacket from the guy in the background is a tangent. Yeah, there is definitely a tangent going on there. That's a good eye and exactly the sort of thing that you want to be paying attention to. And what he's talking about there is visually this comes up. I need to deselect. This comes up and ends right where his jacket is, making it look like they are touching, but you know, intellectually we know that they're on two different planes. So something would need to be changed there. Either the tilt of the ear needs to be, you know, this way, or his jacket, you know, his pose or his position needs to be moved. Let's just do that. There we go. So that would be a good solution to put in. Looks a little more 3D now. Yeah, I think indicating that would be nice. It would go really well with the style that they already have. Should the guy have reflected light on him too? Yeah, half as much though. Very little, and because you don't want to draw attention to him. Also, he's wearing black, so maybe just a bit of color, you know, just kind of warming up his face some. I don't see it happening on his clothes much. You want to flatten him into the background a bit. Instead of the age-old, which brush did you use? It'll be, which sound effects do you use to make your art so good? Yeah, that'll be it. And then it'll be almost orchestral, right? You get into the rhythm of it, and as you're painting and erasing, and you know, some of them are like violins, and then you have drums, and maybe it's a gong, you know, when you use a layer style or something. Yeah, could be cool. What is this week's challenge? Partisan asks. I'll cover it a little bit later at the recap at the end of the episode. So don't worry about it. We'll go over it. So yeah, that's some ideas there. We pull back. That's where we started. And we just want to get rid of the dead space down there by cropping that out. Put him back in shadow because there's so much of the composition pulling attention up to him. And throwing her into shadow. We want to bring her into more depth, get more color out of the image. So I'd say treat it a little more 3D. And you can use a color overlay layer in order to play around with what color, warm, cool, whatever. Doing a tone for some of the light. Adding a little bounce light to get some more form out of the character using a linear dodge layer. Other layers would also work. Playing around with the shadow to bring focus back towards the face with a triangular shape. Playing around with the windows so that it doesn't have just the hot square shape going on there, more of a gradation. And bring some color back into the window. Using that sort of approach, honestly, on several pieces of the artwork would be helpful. Like this, I think, has a lot of the same issues, that it feels very flat. There's a little lighting going on, some shading being indicated, but it doesn't really have good form to it. There's not depth to what's going on here, and I think that would be really nice. Something they could consider with their artwork between these and this is doing basically paper cutout style, almost like a Paper Mario, where maybe the trees and the, you know, some of the stage stuff around the characters actually look 2D, and they're 2D environments, almost like a little stage play background with the 3D rendered character in that scene. You could do it with this, almost like this was a paper cutout of a store, and she's nice and 3D in that. Same thing here, almost like they're sitting on a little stage, and it's not a real bush. It is a stage painting of a flat bush that's stylized, and they're inhabiting these little scenarios. Just a direction you could go with it in order to give it a different look, and, you know, ideas. Playing with ideas. Okay, any questions from the chat? Any topics that you want me to go over? Switch back to my camera for a second. Yeah, Jamie is right. The values of a lot of the characters' clothes blend into the background, and that happens a lot when you don't have a lighting scheme established, because everything is getting flat lighting. In some cases, that's exactly what you want. If you're wanting this sort of dreary and ambiguous, you know, cloudy day, or sort of a mysterious feeling, then flat lighting may be exactly what you want, but it's not doing this any service, because it just, that's not the mood you're going for, and you're trying to build up a lot of color, but everything is just getting muted down because nothing's brighter than anything else. Course sound effects would be epic. Yeah, they would be. People that know how to program and audio stuff, they need to go figure that out. Yeah. Does it have to be about the paintover you just did? No, it doesn't. We just do this to bring up topics that might be worth talking about, and just so you guys can kind of see how to go take this process and approaches to your own artwork. But no, if you want to have questions about anything really, shoot them to me. If I don't like the question, I won't answer it. Pretty simple. Okay, if there's nothing else, we're already an hour, so maybe we'll look at one more and then we'll probably wrap it up. Oh, let me pause and go ahead and say the next Art Fundamentals video, which is on basic anatomy and proportion, is being worked on right now. I recorded all of it. It is in the process of being edited. It is significantly longer than the other Art Fundamental videos, running about 45 minutes in total. So I'm going to be dividing that up into 10-minute segments and putting those out in parts. So it'll be a 4-part. And it's looking really good. The first 2 parts are almost finished, and I'm continuing working on those. Those will be coming out pretty soon. I do have the next painting metal, dark metal episode coming out. I think there's another episode after that slated, and then we'll probably jump over to the Art Fundamental ones. So yeah, those are coming soon. Also, I am working on the next chapter of the mood book, which will be on composition, viewpoints, and focal points. So I'm working on that. Quite a few little illustrations I need to do for that one, so that's what's keeping my time up on that one. Yeah, fundamental videos. Yeah, I'm glad you're excited about those. Always been very good reception. So we got a couple more to finish out that series. Any tips on growing a YouTube audience for someone just starting out? There's a lot of videos out there about how to grow a YouTube channel. I'm not going to say I'm an authority on it, but a couple of the things that I would say is, if you're just starting out, consistency is a big one. Put stuff out. Like, if you want to put out a video every week, putting out more than one video a week can be a fairly tall order, depending on what kind of video you're doing. If you're just doing a chat to the camera thing, and I don't know what kind of stuff you want to talk about, but some videos are much easier to do than other videos. These live streams are actually pretty easy to do. There's not much prep time that I have to do. I have to come up with a cover image. I announce it in a couple of places, but otherwise, there's no editing, post-editing on this. There's no pre-editing. Whereas like the Art Fundamental videos, that is, 3 days worth of work or more involved in that. Outlining it, setting up all the files, recording it again, maybe recording it a third time, editing through it multiple times, breaking it up, making multiple covers. You're talking about 3 or 4 days total of work for one of those episodes. And you can't necessarily just do that all the time, but figure out what you can do, and you should be putting out a video every week. Announce it, put it out on your YouTube channel. If you have an email list, start making an email list, and be putting out good content. People respond to good content. People respond to people who are enthusiastic about it. Also known that it is a work in progress. And if you are not used to being behind the camera, that it's going to take a while, all right? Your first ones are going to be clunky. I go back and I watch some of my early episodes, and they're not good. They're not good. I was not comfortable in front of a camera, and I didn't know what speed to talk. I didn't know how to bring more energy to what I was talking about, and I didn't know how to edit videos as well. So don't be too hard on yourself. Just get in the habit of putting out videos. Do things that you're enthusiastic about, and don't approach it like a business. If it ends up blowing up and it does really good, then you can think about trying to monetize it and treating it more like a business. But in the beginning, just love doing it and do it out of the love of whatever you're talking about. Aside from that, there's a lot of great videos talking about strategies and tips, and I would suggest going out and watching those. Yes, let's see. Two other things. Get a decent camera or webcam, and get a decent mic. Bad audio is a channel killer. And even if the video is good, even if the content is good, if it has bad audio, people will close that video in 5 seconds. They don't want to deal with it. I use a Yeti microphone, which is the blue line of Yeti. It is industry standard. I think it ran $100, a little over $100, right around that price point. It's worth the investment. It's easy to use. It's very reliable. It has multiple settings. Go out there, get a Blue Yeti microphone. I use a Logitech webcam. It is the 930E, and I'm pretty happy with it. Runs full HD. It has some custom settings in the back end if you want to zoom in or adjust the color balance, that sort of thing. So, yeah. Could you talk a bit about your art mentors and influences? I do have a video on influences and favorite art books, so that's a lot of it. I would suggest going out and watching that. I cover a lot of those things on that episode. How do you recommend to evaluate the level of quality of artwork to show on social media? I struggle to decide what to show to people. How do you recommend evaluate the quality of artwork to show on social media? I would generally say don't do sketches, do finished work. Or if you do a sketch, then post it as a work in progress. And generally I'd say any new portfolio piece, or if you did a new commission piece, putting it out there. I don't think that you necessarily need to be posting stuff all the time. If you're not happy with it, if you're not proud of it, then don't post it. Because it might be the first thing that somebody... Okay, let's put it like this. Art director comes across your social media. He sees the image. It's an image that you're not particularly proud of, and you know wasn't that good. But you just felt like, I needed to post an image. And he sees that and he thinks, wow, that's not very good. I don't need them. Well, you might have just blown your chance because you just posted anything. So post your good stuff. And yeah, just initial thoughts on that. Maybe you find that helpful. Are you maybe thinking and creating a video specifically about shape language and composing shapes to make maybe characters, environments good to look in a basic level? SSRT of like rules of designs. Okay, I'm not following that exactly. Thinking about creating a video specific about shape language and composing shapes to make maybe characters or environments good to look in a basic level. I'll be talking about shape language a bit in the upcoming mood book. We'll talk about shapes in that to a degree. Also cover shape language some in my character design ebook, character designing and drawing. That's available in the store. But, okay, you might need to clarify that. I'm not sure what you mean by look in a basic level. But, yeah, I mean, maybe I could come out with something just focusing on shapes and shape connotations and using shapes in general. I'll have to keep that in mind. Paul Guevara. Speaking of audio levels on the live stream a bit low, at least for me. Yeah, people say that, Paul. I don't know what else I can do. Honestly, every single audio level is maxed out on my computer and on my system. So I just nothing else I can do to raise that. Sorry about my spelling. More like appealing shapes and use them in paintings. Yeah, go check out my ebook. I talk about that at least in character design. Basically, straight shapes, hard shapes, or inorganic. They're man-made. The less approachable, organic curved shapes are more appealing. They're more approachable, and they're more natural. That sort of thing going on. Yeah. And Tori says, Swatches, something happened on your Discord server just now. Some random spammers spammed that for a bit and then left. Please look into that. Okay, I'll try to look into that. I haven't been out there in a while, so I'll go try to take a look. And I have no problem banning somebody. The ban hammer is happy to be used. So if that's required, I don't have any issue with that. Yeah. Okay. Good questions. I appreciate it. Let's take a look at one more gallery, and then we'll recap the challenge. So I need to go back over here to my random number generator. Get a new number. That one. Okay. Let's check that. Make sure that's a live gallery. Okay, no, we've looked at his stuff before. That is one I've got to mark off. Okay, let's grab that. Going a little slow, hang on. So we get it pulled up. Okay, yep, that works. Let's minimize that. And then we need to move this back over to that side. Okay, so this is the gallery of Omrikoresh. And what do we know about Omrikoresh? Mel, 32, from Israel. Okay. Alice into Darkness would be the topic there. American McGee. Alice Asylum. Okay. Gallery. I would be surprised if some of these are not professional work. And mine, Matt Hatter. I was trying to see if some of these were commissioned pieces or whether they're fan art pieces. It's not loading for some reason. Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things as Alice. Okay, is that the full view? Okay, there we go. I'm assuming some of this is photo bashing. Like the texture on that hat is far too detailed to be accepted as a painting. So, okay, we got photo bashing going on, and it's a combination. So, like, I don't know if he painted Millie on this piece, or maybe he modified a photo if he hand painted it. I'm not sure. It fits that style for the Alice Asylum. Okay. Now this looks fully painted. Yeah, okay. He might have used a little bit of lace there, but that could be painted as well. Nutcracker bleeds. It's sort of interesting scene. I'm a fan of the overall design of this image. Now, instead of just doing the figure with the a dark background around her, we're using the rats from the Nutcracker story to basically silhouette her, and that's really nice. And you went to the effort of using some of the tails to come over and overlap. That's excellent. It gives you a little more depth out of that image. And let me see, just view image. Yeah, I'll pull up a little bit more. Good execution. Completely standard centered frame, which is kind of interesting because you would think this would be a scary sort of horror scene. So he's using a visual juxtaposition between what's going on in the scene and how the scene is actually designed. That's really standing out to me right now because it's what I'm covering in the chapter right now in the book. So I was just kind of talking through it. This is a very contrasting narrative ugly, black, giant rats, beautiful girl. And that's usually a conflicting scene, like a, danger, a horror, that sort of thing. But he's not doing it that way. He's treating it as if it is a classic portrait painting, where it's person centered to the frame and nice full light, and so it creates extra sort of narrative depth where it's contrasting against itself. I don't have that much to say against this. I feel like just a little bit of the rendering, like the cheeks are getting exceptionally light out here. And while some people have that face shape, it feels odd because it feels like it flattens the face out when I'd prefer to if it felt more rounded, where the sides can drift into a little more shadow. The rest of the execution is quite good. If maybe the light wasn't straight on, if it was slightly downwards, let's play with the lighting on that a little bit. Come over here, file, new. Did not drag that over, did you? Alright, well, I don't know why it's not letting me drag the image. I was trying to do it that way. Nope, won't let me do it like that. That is odd. You should be able to just drag it off over there. Okay, well, we're not then. Hey, Singapore. Glad you're viewing. Thanks for joining. Well, let's take a look at some of the other images. I mean, that's professional level work. I don't have much crits about that. Okay, I thought it would go back to the gallery, but it's not. Okay, he's getting different actresses and doing Alice portrayals of them. The hair seems a bit wiry to me. We're basically, they're all the same thickness and they all have the same edge quality, hard edge quality. So I'd like to see some of it really softened out a bit more. Some of it can definitely be like it is. But let's not have that exact same everywhere unless you're trying to play up the wiry nature of it. I just don't think it really works for what you're going for. Yeah, I can do it that way too. What I'm looking at here is maybe he's trying to make her exceptionally pale, but her skin is so light that it's making her feel chalky and kind of fake. And I'd like to see that brought down a little bit. And there's also just some, like, the center of the mouth is not turned enough that it needs to be over there. There's just a little alignment thing going on with that. Yeah, I feel like that hair isn't enough. Like, she's got a nice full head of hair. Like, this is a lot of thickness of hair. There's still that same amount of hair up here. It's just laying down, which means that's like a quarter of an inch of thickness of hair. Shoot, my hair is not that long, and it's more than that. So, yeah, there's some little stuff with that. We'll pull that off. Maybe we'll look at that. Okay, what else we got? Yeah, so this is just little stuff. Okay. This is something else he's doing that I'm not a big fan of, which is the fuzzy brush background. All the background is just this fuzzy brush. And there's a difference between something being out of focus and something that you just use the fuzzy airbrush to paint. And that looks like you kind of just got a spray can and all just has this sort of softness to it, but it's not a camera out of focus thing. And you can handle that in a couple of different ways. One is you can keep it realistic all the way back to the background. You can create a, that actually maybe we'll just do like little changes, exempling various little changes that you can do, different techniques. Okay. This is one where like the lighting on the character does not match. The lighting on the character does not match from element to element, and the lighting of the background does not match with the character. So there's this real disjointed feeling from the scene. Like the realism the cat doesn't mesh with the realism of the face, because that's like photo quality and this is some weird other thing. Okay, so oh, this is going, and this is better. I like this. This is good. This is more reminiscent of the one with the Nutcracker with the rats. Nice, good face here. These are detailed enough that they work in the scene. Again, with the hair feeling a bit wiry. Partner said, I gotta go to sleep, almost 4 a.m. Oh, yeah, man, go to sleep. Go to sleep. Maybe Minx post this week's challenge. Yeah, I'll put a write-up in the Facebook group. You'll have 2 weeks to do it, so it's not an immediate hurry. Essentially, it's a little level design environment, like you're doing a game. Yep. Really, really well handled, that face. The execution on that is excellent. I assume he has photo reference for that. There's a lot of nuanced stuff going on with the face there that would be hard to come up with without reference. Look at this scene, environment. A lot of stuff going on here. Let's pull it off. Okay. You know, I thought I was going to be ending this stream pretty soon, but fact is, these are some pretty cool images and things to talk about, so we'll just take over whatever time we need to go through some of these. Alright, let's start with this one. Open with Photoshop. There we go. Oh yeah, we want to keep it up there because it puts it on the screen. Now this is, Emily Browning, because she was the girl from the Series of Unfortunate Events movie that came out 10 years ago or whatever. So, okay, the first thing is the skin tone is very light. So I would consider bringing that down. I'd use you can use a multiply layer or a darken layer. I feel like a darken layer set to a lower opacity would probably work better in this case. Let's try around 40. And I want a flesh tone in that region. So it will only darken things that are lighter than it. So it won't affect, the eyebrows or the hair. That will come here. And it's set at 40%, so it's not going to flatten out everything either. Go and come down here. So that brings it up. If I set this up, just for you to know, like if I set that up all the way, you're going to have that. And obviously that's not what we want because it completely flattens it out. But if I can set it down, okay, or if I set it to multiply, then we have that. That doesn't really work either. So darken, set to around 50%. A little less, I think. Yeah, 40 was about right. Gives some skin tone back to her. Yep. I'm actually going to try to darken the version of that and heat that up a little bit. A little more to the yellow side. He's brightening up towards the yellow, so there we go. And you can see the difference there that makes. Now that's not the only change that needs to happen, but that is not an insignificant one. Yeah. And I want to bring out some of these forms. Everything still feels a little flat. So let's make another layer. Let's set this one to overlay. Overlay will adjust the values and the color by essentially multiplying the two together. And if you have a light that you're painting over a light, it will make it extra light. Whereas it does the same thing with a dark. A dark over dark will make it darker. But a light over a dark isn't necessarily going to lighten it very much. So the lips, I feel like you probably could punch those up a little bit. Color-wise, I'm getting a lag with my brush. It's a little weird. I'm not used to having a laggy brush in Photoshop. So what I want to do is establish some skin tone, accurate tones back into it, and then I can come in and do more finessing to it. All right, let's just create a normal layer. Go through these a little quicker. Like I said, the hair is really thin up here, and maybe this is true. Maybe he looked at a photo. Generally speaking, if the hair down here has this much wave, it's not completely flat on the top or a completely smooth curve. It will generally have a little more wave to different parts of it, where different groups of hair are kind of waving out there. And I'm going to think that that is going to have a little more thickness to it, and how you try to sell that. And that would be a good one to bring out there if you're going to let that hover out over other stuff. Do that. So like at this angle, see, this feels like her face is very flattened out, and that it doesn't have enough curve. I know that this Emily has a very odd face. I wouldn't say odd. She has a very distinct sort of face with the way that her bone structure is. So some of it might be right, but that does, it feels like the lower part of the face is just not centered correctly. I'm gonna try to adjust this. I don't know if this will work, but I feel like almost if you pulled that back a little bit, it would indicate more roundness to the face. Not sure. Let's just go with it and see. Okay, something else here is the eyes are really white, and often the whites of the eyes are darker than you would think. So I'm going to turn those down a bit. Also, the green is exceptionally green. Now, you can have green, but that doesn't mean that all of the eye has to be that green. it could mean that just a portion of it gets green. Now on the eye, look at this. This is the way the eye commonly works. Make a new layer. You have the eyeball. It is a sphere. The light is coming down. It hits this point on the sphere. Right there. That is the closest point to the light. Right there on hers. Right there. So it's coming in. It hits that. It's a ball. Your eye is a ball. So it's going through the middle of the ball. And it's going to hit the opposite side of the ball. On the other side. And that's where, the back of your eye is. That's where your rods and your cones are. That picks up the light that allows you to see. And it lights that area back there. That's what allows you to see. And it's also what lights your iris. And it sort of works the same way. So what you want to do is you darken it around where the highlight is. Then you get the brighter tones in the color on the opposite side of the highlight, because it's entering from that side, it's going through the back, and it's lighting this side over there. Also, the white of the eye is usually not white. It does have its desaturated skin tone, but not gray skin tone. It's not dead. It does have some warmth to it. There's usually more pink around the inside there. Yeah. So you can kind of see the before and after on that. They just feel a bit more round. Also here, unless she's wearing a lot of makeup, that is probably not real dark on that area. This is a good place where you could have shadow kind of coming across there. You don't want to forget about the shadow being casted by the eyelashes. So there. This is still sort of bothering me, so let's adjust this. We have the center line coming here. You can look at the little folds there. They're doing this. And then you've got that. And you've got this, and that doesn't match with the angle of the face. Like the philtrum there coming out from under the nose is going to be angled over, and it should be like this, right? So the center of the mouth is over here. If we look at the entire head, and if you were to divide that, let's back up and get rid of those lines, from here to about there, the center of the head is over here. So you look at this ratio compared to this ratio, and that's the same ratio that needs to be here. But what we have is that ratio. And this is like pretty much 3/4. Like there's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. And this is like 40%. So if we divide that into quarters, that means the center of the mouth needs to be more over there, because they're turned the same amount, the mouth on the face. Let's just go backwards. Now this is small stuff. I do not want to take away from the fact that he's doing a lot of really good advanced realistic work, and likely these sorts of problems arise from staring at an image so long that you stop noticing things that you would otherwise notice fairly easily. It happens to all of us. It's one of the reasons that it's good to not finish a piece and post it immediately. Leave it a little while, come back the next day, come back the day after that, and then have fresher eyes to look at it. before you post it, and you might be able to pick up something else. Okay, let's pay attention to some of the forms going on with the mouth. That the top of the mouth on the inside makes a sort of M. Deep, 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 like this, and it does so on the top and bottom. She has, I know the actress has very full lips. So, on the top you're going to have outer curve, dip, sort of an outer curve there. That is, it's curving this way, right? Up. Where on the inside you've got an M, but you also have undercurve. So you got this, this, and that. I'm exaggerating, right? So you have this form, and then this form, and then that form. And this form stands out over the other ones. So it is going to, like that center line is going to run down there to that one. And these all sort of line up with each other like that, right? Then the bottom is consisting of two oval shapes, two little oval pillows that intersect like that. Then it has a little flattened spot there where it bridges between the two of them. Yeah. So I'm going to round that out, give her a little fuller lips on the bottom, and then indicate that angle change a little bit. Yep. And we can see that difference. Oh, let me merge that down. Now, so that moves it over some, matches up the face a bit better. This is still, it's still a bit too light. So this is getting into personal preference. So if it was me and I could just do some quick things and it was my piece to get it on a direction that I liked, I would make a multiply layer. And I would pick a nice light tone, maybe even something cooler, with a fuzzy brush, and I want to bring in some bigger forms. That's a little too cool. And I want to get the light coming down here and start trying to establish some of these other forms. Like we don't have that angle change there. We have a little cast shadow from the nose. Okay. And then the eye orbit, I want to kind of put all of that in, and then that. And then as that goes around, let's get something a bit deeper. No. I'm trying to lower the opacity. Oh my goodness. The lag is killing me. There we go. And what I want to do is just lightly add some more tone. So I want to come back and add some little, I'll say specular lights, little lighter spots, but the skin has to be dark enough in order to do that. Let's take it back to the yellow side a little bit. Okay. If you guys have comments or questions along this way, feel free to put them out there. Okay, something else I'm going to do is the light down here. We don't need a lot of light down there, so I would want to change that as well. Get the face back up here, and we can have light. Like this little cast shadow is interesting, indicating the light is sort of coming down at this angle, and that's fine. Like if that was really true, then we should be getting shading reminiscent of that pattern. But I don't think he wants that. I think he wants something a bit flatter than that, and that's fine. But that means that this needs to change as well. And down here, let's let that drift into some shadow. Erase out a little bit. So we can just have a little localized light there, but that also means that if the light is coming down here, we're likely to get more cast along through there. And then we just need a normal layer to sort of blend those together just real quickly so it's not terrible. It's really messy through there, sorry. Then you can have that lighter tone, right? Here, skin tone and that is really close, so let's push that up value-wise and just let that serve to separate the two of them. That, and then these can set away in the darkness. I've got this weird sort of really fuzzy, nondescript thing going on, and let's try to just clarify that, state exactly what the shapes are. Nope, wrong tool. Back there. And unless you're going to play that light up on that edge, I don't think you really need it. So I'm going to get rid of that. There we go. Same sort of thing here. We have like just this sort of fuzzy dark light. Like, yeah, there's probably a little cast shadow from that, but it's a cast shadow from a white object onto a white object that's getting a decent amount of light. So I doubt it's going to be a black shadow. And we don't necessarily need to establish more lines down there. No. Well, thank you. You're saying that you're glad I'm back streaming. Well, I'm glad I'm back streaming too. I miss not being able to stream due to sad internet speeds. This is one of those areas that could really be cleaned up. The thing is, this is so precise and realistic, and this has a not precise and realistic execution. Doesn't really work. So I'm not going to go into all that, but that helps, I think, deal with that part a little better and brings the focus back up here because that's more where the light is. Background is also an option. Like they've got this lighting going on, but this is sort of just a passing nod at a light, and I sort of think you either need to do away with it or you need to embrace it. So let's look at those two options. How many people? Oh, we got 56 people in here. We've doubled up since I last looked. Awesome. Okay, so here we've got some nice warm sort of sunset light in the background. And you've got this nod to a light here, but it's not really adding that much. It either needs to be embraced or it needs just to be done away with. So if you did away with it, it would mean that the outside of the hair would be allowed to go dark. And this is one of those things that's artistic license. Like, realistically, could there be a light? Should there be a light there? Maybe. I mean, there could easily be an object right here blocking the light from the sunset. So it could be catching shadow, cast shadow across there. In which case you've got a dark edge against this background back here. And this is then cast shadow from the head, as is all of this. So that all gets toned down, and then essentially it's a dark shape in the foreground against a lighter shape in the background. And you have your prison stripe shirt, and that gets to go into shadow as well. All those shapes there as well. There. So, good morning. Good morning. It's 4 in the afternoon for me, but where are you from, Timmy? Okay, so that's sort of you not using it. You would get off that part on the other side as well. And that feels a little cleaner. Because, yeah. I mean, if you also did that, then I would suggest lightening this up so that it has a distinctly lighter middle tone. So the character has nice lights and nice darks that allow it to stand out over the background. This is a fairly classic painting approach of using a mid-tone brown as the tone to put characters in front of. I just don't want that black in the background to compete with the darks on her. Little bit's okay, but not that much. So there we have that. The other approach, of course, is to use the light more. So that would be putting edge light here. And I'm not a big fan of just having the little raking light. Like, let it actually go across more of the shape. Let it tell more of the shape. So if it's nice and low, then it's actually going to be catching the underside of the head, not the top part of it. And that would allow you to throw some more of these colors in here. And that's nice and bright. And maybe parts of this. It's like it's white fabric being lit, so it's going to be pretty bright. And even this part up here that's black fabric is going to be decently light. This. I'm just trying to do this really quick. You would have some of those nice warm tones in there as well, like you have in the sky up here. And that here. And that's a case where you could leave this a bit darker in the background, and it would contrast against this light really well. And you could pop in some lighter ones, right? Yeah. Don't forget about your little mid-tone along the edge, just to warm that up. And we want to kind of do the opposite on the other side. The light is coming off over here and kind of raking through this part. Actually, we can do it like this. Like that. You can just do that version and then come back in and erase it to the shape that you want. And that way you just paint a little background light. Or you could use a mask. I mean, if I was really taking my time, I'd probably use a mask to do that, so I have more time to play with it. But there we go. All of that is a little too much, so we just knock it down. So it's atmospheric light going across there. And you could also do this if you wanted to push further. Make a new layer, set it to darken, set it down, grab something like that. Essentially the same process as we used on the little biker character. I'm gonna grab this, and I'm gonna fill that. Now he's running with a, I said earlier, warm light, cool shadows is usually the dynamic, but he is running with a analogous color scheme. That is, all of the colors are very related. So I don't think that's necessarily what he's trying to go for. Oh, that's not what I meant. So I'm gonna try to find a warm tone. Maybe it's just a little more desaturated. That could be believable as a shadow tone. There we go. And that way it looks like it's all in cast shadow. And you could also do sort of the inverse. I could grab that shape and invert that and make a new layer and set that to, say, linear dodge. And set that opacity down. Let's hide that. Use my big brush. I'm going to do some more atmospheric. So let's grab a color somewhere around that. Oh, it needs to be on top of that guy, though. There we go. Just reestablish some of those shapes a little bit. Because this is a bit of a darker image, I'm thinking the top of that could actually be getting darker. So let's create a new, nope, let's not deselect. Nope. Oh, that one. Thank you. Another layer. Linear dodge. That was darken. Let's set this one to multiply. And I want to darken the sky a bit so that it brings in a little more mood. Because this is not a happy game. Like, she is nutso. I don't know Asylum, but I know the previous game, and basically Alice has gone bananas. And yeah. So that gives it a kind of a dark overtone. There. We could have new layer, just playing up the kind of the light streak across some of that area. Swatches, you ask. You said earlier that you were darkening the skin to allow for specular lights. Are you going to add some? Well, if we use this style, then no, because specular lights only exist in direct light. So in this case, there wouldn't even be highlights in the eyes because it's not receiving direct light. And you would need to paint those out after you deselect. So to be accurate to this lighting scheme, those would actually be gone. That. Now you might have a little light, something over there that's nice and light, might be bouncing some light back towards her face. So you might have some warm tone sort of reflected in there a little bit. But that would be about the extent of what you would have with the shadowed version. Going back to the other version, though, take that off. Yeah, that's more, kind of following this direction. Oh, that was the mouth. Move that down. And come up here, and we're looking for a couple of different places where lights might be hitting and where they might not be. Now, I want to knock down some of these values where I really don't want light. You have to remember that the eye is sphere, and it's actually going to be getting darker as it rounds down past the midpoint. So there should be a little shadow on the underside, and the fact that it is a ball and it's rounding away. So it gets a shadow coming down from the top from the eyelashes, and it gets a shadow on the bottom because it's just spherical. And you have the thickness of the eyelid there. And that is generally really warm. Blood vessels are very near the surface of the skin right there. So we want to make sure that that's warmed up. And I'm just borrowing the same color from the lips. And that, I'm just guessing. I feel like that might not be the best place to put a light right there. Now I'll say we have that highlight here. Okay, and the light's coming from that direction. That would mean that this might be catching light on the inside there. A little light here. Now this can catch light as well, that thickness. And let's pull up. It's because this stays wet, right? Your eye is wet, and this has a slight amount of moisture right along there. And that's the opposite side where the light would come down. So it could catch some light right here. Maybe that's why he had light here too. It might catch light right there too. And the light right there along the edge is also what you see if you had, you know, the edge of a pond, and you have the ground up here and the water highlights right there along the edge where it meets up with the ground, because there's a small buckle in the water where the surface tension bends when it touches something, and that's where it grabs the highlight. So same sort of thing applies here, like that. And you can put a highlight back there in the inside part of the eye if you'd like to do that. Here, other places to pay attention that often get light. I actually covered this in a video just a day or two ago. That is down here. The angle change from the nostril. You're looking for angle changes. Say you saw something from the side, and you're looking at different parts of the face from the side, and it has an angle change. So the nostril is coming down and meets in with the cheek. The cheek is coming at an angle. And we're looking for those sort of angle changes, because that's likely where you're going to pick up a little light. So it's going to have a pop of light right there, and then fade off. Might have a little bit stronger of a light there. You may, depending on lighting, even have a dark cast shadow from that. So this is the actual edge of the nostril, but then you have this dark cast shadow where it's really, really close to the skin, but then as it gets a little bit further away from the skin out here, it does soften slightly. We could play with that as if that's true. Coming down here, he has it here. That's another spot that you often catch a little bit of light. Again, the angle change going on, and he has some of it here too, which is the lips have a lip on them at the top where they fold back over. This shape felt a little wrong. Like it needs to come up like this, and then it curves back in like that. So it's a convex and concave curve combining into that overall form. Yeah. And you have some light up there, usually caught along the top of the lip. Of course, you could have a highlight on the lip as well. Sometimes you get a little highlight pattern. Scrubble it down there. Same thing, you might catch that same light there on that other side, and the equivalent light on that other side. Don't play up the avial fold unless it's an old character and you're intentionally trying to make them look older. Sometimes this, I feel like we need skin tone there more than we need light. Sometimes you can catch a light across here as well. Just depends. The eyebrows feel very, very dark very quickly. There's no other color. It's just kind of 100% or nothing. And I'd like to see coming in here maybe some other color. Greens and blues are not uncommon tones to use to paint like thinner parts of the eyebrow. So I want to thin that a little bit, bring a little of the skin tone in there, because essentially you can look through some of this and it's going to have skin in there that's just being shaded by some of the hair. So let's break that up so it doesn't just look like a, caterpillar eyebrows. You can soften it out, make it a little more nuanced. And eyebrows, right now he has this pattern going on, which is true for the bottom half of the eyebrow, but the top has a downward curve and they meet towards the middle. So you can try to bring in just a little of that pattern going on the top. Like that. The rest of it's pretty good. You might have highlight up here. So like they've got lots of light right across there, which seems a little odd to me when that would probably be getting more light up here. Then there's a slight angle change right there from the curve of the cranium to where it rounds into the bridge up there over the eyes. So you might even have a little light catching right along there. But usually these angle changes are really subtle. This is also downwards facing a little angle change there, so you might try to indicate that form. Even if it's subtle, some subtle changes like that can help sell the form of something. Anyway, that's sort of rough, but hopefully that gives you an idea of some things that you can do to approach it. Right? Okay. So let's go to something else. Here, what I was talking about, let's do a couple of different versions of this. Right now it just has fuzzy brush background. Where if you want something to be out of focus, then you could just do filter, blur, lens blur, brings you in here, and then you can change the radius to how much blur you want. Right there. I'll just use a mask. So you have like the main character and they're nice and sharp, but then the background looks like it is actually out of focus and not fuzzy brush out of focus. Like you actually have a difference of camera lenses being used. It would take a while to do because you'd have to come back and clean all these edges. When you run a filter like that, it's going to start grabbing the color of the hair and fuzzing it into the background. So you would need to come back with a new layer and then paint all of this so it doesn't start stealing the fuzz from the character, right? It would take a little while, but that would be the most authentic way in order to get that effect, where basically you're just getting a, I think it's a bokeh design, which is the out of focus, you can't tell really what it is, sort of camera effect of that. Or you could build up stages where, come over here and you say filter, lens, blur, oh no, filter, blur, lens, blur. And then this one has half as much distortion. So you come over here and paint in, I don't reverse that. I'm confusing myself. Here we go. And then it's like these guys in the background could be at a half focus from the full background. So she's in focus, these are in half focus, then the background is in full out of focus version. So you can kind of step through those. The other option is to really limit the value and the color scheme so that it visually just stays back. This is quite warm. Let's just pick a color, right? Blue is not the major color, so you keep all of these within a smaller value and color range. And it helps them stay on their own plane, and it can be sharper, and this is the big point. This can be sharper than what it is, not just fuzzy, but it only works if you keep it in a limited range. I look at Chris Ron work, R-A-H-N, does work for Magic, does oil paintings, and look how he handles the background, that the background remains detailed and has a lot of visual interest in it, but it doesn't have a high value range. As it goes away, it loses the value range and it loses the color range. So it sets, let's turn that off, in this pointed area. So the edge of this is not fuzzy. It just is limited value. And then as it twists, I'll let it get lighter and lighter. And you can even push it more than that. So that's really not going to compete with her because it's not nearly as dark. And if you wanted to create cloud effects back here, you could do it, and they could still be well realized, in that you could have, you know, cloud pattern coming across here. Now through here, it'd take a while just to paint a bunch of clouds, but keeping it sharp is fine as long as it just has a certain range that it's filling. So hopefully that makes sense. Right along there. Maybe I think I have a folder that has some Iran stuff in it. Yeah. Let's take a look at this one. See that? The house still has nice firm edges to it. You got windows, you got chimneys, all kinds of stuff going on, all these little branches. But the limited value range really throws it to the background. And I think that that would be a much better way to handle the backgrounds in these images that they have, rather than just fuzzy brush. Yeah. this one. Okay, on this one, let's just talk about lighting. I've said it before, I'll say it again. There are 3 aspects to lighting that you really want to keep consistent: the direction, the color, and the intensity. So, assuming the face to be the point of reference, because there's so many different versions going on here, the lighting is coming from this direction because that's the side of the nose that's lit, and it's cool light because it's just very cool colors, and it's not overly harsh, but it's fairly bright. But we don't see that playing true on the hair, for instance. There's no light on the side of this hair. There's no light up here. And the top of this doesn't have much light. It would be more than that. I reckon this would have more light on it than that. And yet we see the light coming in that direction on the background and on this direction on the face. And then where is this light coming from? Maybe there's a beam of light coming through here and hitting it from that same source of light? I don't know. We also have like lighting back here. Like, what the heck? If the light's coming here on her, why is that lit? So that really needs to be made more consistent. Otherwise, I just feel like it really is just a Photoshop job where you got pieces of this and pieces of that and just kind of mashed them together. We also have the value issue going on, right? Let's fill this and set that color. The value scheme's sort of really dark. And dark is okay, but then we got these spots of bright white in sort of random places. Bright white hair, bright white forehead, bright white on the back of her dress, bright white teeth, eyes, arm, hip of this cat. Not completely white, but really bright background back there. And it's just kind of haphazard. So if you wanted to go with the background, I don't want to think about having to repaint all of those. That would mean shading the face, doing another darken layer. For some reason, I cannot click that with this pen and make it low. So we grab the tone here already established for the face. Now, you can give a dark feeling to the image without necessarily having to use a lot of black. And one of the ways to do that is put the character in shadow. So let's do that. If the character's face is hidden and makes them feel obscured, and something down here. So even though the background is lit, it will have a dark feeling because she is simply in shadow. And she herself is not really being lit. And now she's in shadow. There's a dark feeling. I don't know that we need that light on the hair at all. So there's a beautiful background back here. Everything nice and bright and beautiful. Wonderland is Wonderland. And that stands in dark contrast to how evil and you know, messed up she looks. Crazy. And that'll allow you to add a bit more color back here. just feel like that black is maybe not the right color. Just to ease off of black slightly. I'll fade into it a bit more. Because he is wanting to do that draw you into the image thing. That's okay. Like, even if this cat's teeth were darker, kind of yellowed, that would be kind of interesting. As we're using a spot of color. If you want those eyes to glow, then you could play that up a bit more. Where more color in the corners. And use more color to make it pop than you do chroma. It's chroma, I mean value. More chroma than value. And if you really want to sell the idea that it's glowing, then you need to add glowing effects around it to different parts of the face that might be catching some of that light. Maybe it even has a little reflection on that wet nose along there. Could be catching some of the whiskers in that light. Yeah. Oh, some ideas there. Okay. Well, I think that about does it. I said I was going to wrap it up with the challenge, so let's just touch back on that. And the challenge is to create a situation sort of like this that would be serving as a area that might be a game level, or not an entire level, but just an environment, a place that you would pass through. I want to see some way that you would enter the scene, some way that you would exit. This one uses a bridge. Other ones could use a set of doors. You enter through one door, out of another door. Multiple levels is a good idea. This one uses staircases up to other levels. It uses different platforms. This uses just a tiered rocks going up. This one has a down level down there with some beams going across it. So those are good. Let's see it in color. And from an isometric view. This is an isometric view. This is kind of a 3/4 view looking downwards. That's basically the view going on right there. It doesn't have to be completely realistic. And this is a good inspiration. Like if you did an isometric view of this. So it's got different stuff that your character can interact with. Consider whether you want it to be in woods, a natural environment like a desert or woods or a beach or a cave, or whether you want it to be in some buildings like ruins or a castle or crossing a bridge, for instance. But yeah, that's it for now. We're running about 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours. So I appreciate everybody joining. I will write up in the description of the challenge, put it in the Facebook group. So you're welcome to go out there to swatches.group and check those out. And stick around. I think tomorrow I'll probably be releasing the next How to Paint Metal. And within a week or so, I'll be releasing the next Art Fundamentals Anatomy episode. Yeah. A lot of stuff going on with that. Yes. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and we will try to do this again next Friday, but you have 2 weeks for this challenge. So you don't have to get it done by next Friday, but if you want to send in some sketches, maybe we'll take a look at that. I'll let you know more in the Facebook group. So thank you for joining me, and until you see you next time, keep drawing.